Salam alaikum and happy Ramadan to all. Ramazan Mubarak برای عزیزان اهل زبان فارسی و selamat bulan puasa untuk teman-teman di Nusantara dan dimanapun. Mohon maaf lahir batin. I'm Jessika Kenney, and I'm honored to be a Khateebah and Mu'adthinah for the Women's Mosque of America. For this series on women in Islam, I chose Rabiah al Basra, or in Persian, Rabiah Adavi, who lived in 8th century Iraq and was one of the most famous women of early Islam. She's known for introducing the concept of love into early Sufism or mystical Islam. The reason I chose her was that the day I received the request, I happened to be studying Attar of Neshabur's Conference of the Birds, the Mantiq al-Tayr, and I had just read a passage which relayed some of Rabi'ah's words. There are many stories of her in the Mantiq al-Tayr, and it forms Attar's writing in Conference of the Birds and also in memorial remembrance of the saints or friends of God, includes many stories of Rabi'ah. One of the reasons I wanted to share Rabi'ah's words through Attar in Persian is that I feel the way that she is translated is often filtered through a very cultural lens, which brings out a kind of coldness or harshness in her personality. And I feel when you go back to the original text, the warmth of her being, this constancy, this experience of love that she has with the divine, and her ecstatic state, which she attempted to remain in at every moment in this immediate way, is really kind of underemphasized, which I find is very gendered and kind of brings out that aspect of whenever she limits something or whenever she corrects a man, it's an act of generosity, but in translation, it comes across as critical. And I think that's partially our perception that we are not taught to perceive women correcting men as an aspect of generosity, warmth, brilliance. But in her case, I believe it really is that. And we can read her words through these other writers in this way. So the first thing I wanted to share of her writing is in Persian. So I'll recite it and then give my own translation and interpretation. Rabi'ah gufti, Rabi'ah said, که دانای راز, O knower of secrets. دشمنان را کار دنیا می بساز, دوستان را آخرت ده بر دوام. زان که من زین کار آزادم مدام, گر ز دنیا و آخرت مفلس شوم. کم غمم گر یک دمت مونس شوم. بس بود این مفلسی از تو مرا, زان که دایم تو بسی از تو مرا. گر به سوی هر دو عالم بنگرم, یا به جز تو هیچ خواهم کافرم. Rabi'ah said, O knower of secrets, the enemies make busy with worldly work. The friends give the hereafter perpetually. From both of these free my efforts continually. If from the world and the hereafter I am deprived, the less my pain, if for one moment your companion I become. And this deprivation you give to me is enough, that which continually you limit from you flowing to me. if I see anything in either world besides you to want, I am kafir. So I find many interesting moments in this text, and I think the most important and the most rarely translated to me correctly is the word munes, which means companion. And when she says, my pain will be lessened if for one moment I become your companion, it has that really transformative and radical feeling to it, that she's saying this thing, that she loves God, that she wants to be the companion of God, and that she sees that God can provide that, that only God can provide that. So the word munes, I think, is very powerful. And then she depicts herself as a person with very little, muflesi. And I think this is also something that we have a cultural lens to think of less as being somehow weakness or negative, but the way she uses it is so warm, so loving. She's saying that God has made me small, or made me have less, but in the sense of also giving everything, love, eternity, continuity. And then finally, I think it's very interesting that the last two words of the text are khaham, I want, and kafaram, I am kafar. So it kind of brings all of this complex material into our thinking in a way which forces us to think in a different way, kind of breaks down our thinking. And I want to invite you to break down your own thinking through this warmth, through this love, which she recommends. Obviously, her gender is very important to these stories and the way she's depicted. And I think that we can see how her stories play with the gender binary in a really dynamic way, and that we can use this for contemporary analysis of how we see ourselves and others, and how we can go beyond these the limitations of gender while still really uplifting women. Rabiah, also because she's not, her actual words are not written down. This is all, hearsay and story. We actually have the potential to read between those lines. And Attar, as a masculine voice, can even be the permission to see into how would a woman's perception be different than Attar's. So he's offering this point of view, and through that we can kind of adapt to how we know things are. So I think there's a lot to be said about Rabiah, and this is just a little dip in the pool of her vast wisdom and attainment. So thank you for listening, and have a beautiful Ramadan.